We've been given a really great reset opportunity.
121 million jobs around the world have been already impacted. And if we don't get this right, you will see, unfortunately, a lot of bad news of layoffs, redundancies out of this challenge that has been the greatest in our generation, right?
For me, the future of travel is really predicated on where we are at the moment. The travel industry is having a horrible time. We're seeing layoffs in aviation. The cruise industry is losing billions of pounds each month. And, the glimmers of hope that were afforded by the air corridors have been dimmed a bit with the reimposition of quarantine restrictions. So dealing with the consequences of that, I think, is the big thing that will shape the future for travel.
They will ask you to wear a mask until we have a vaccine, because we know that a big portion of the people that have COVID, unfortunately, they're asymptomatic. And we are not able to detect who's sick or who's not.
I think packing, we'll potentially get used to thinking about different things we pack. It'll be hand sanitizer as well as sun cream. It'll be masks as well as swimming trunks.
I think that we're going to see a lot less mass tourism. I think it's going to be very much more bespoke. As we know, there are going to be less flights, and there's going to be less flights for quite some time. People will not necessarily be going point to point anymore. They'll be going into a city, and then they'll be hiring a car and going, and travelling. I think there'll be massive increases in rail travel. There'll be more increases in river cruising, in more holidays, which I think people can feel that they can take a little bit longer and take it at their leisure.
The train rather than the plane could really be a fundamental part of what we do. Taking a longer holiday with shorter travel bits on the either side, I think, will be important to people as well.
You will see a lot of travel into secondary cities. You will see traveling more like adventures on a beach. You will see not traveling to crowded places like in the past, because people are concerned, right?
The more mass market nature of travel it needed to change. So places where it's just beach is just full of people, or it's kind of mass tower blocks full of hotels that actually cannot function without. It just doesn't work at all in any kind of social distancing. I don't think it really worked before. I think it was kind of on a tipping point as it was.
We think there's going to be a much bigger move towards social impact. So, travel, as we know, really is a force for good, and people know that. And people are increasingly understanding that where they travel can make a big difference. Let's look at Africa, for example, which since the COVID pandemic has seen an incredible rise in poaching, because in order to save the animals, rely totally on consumers going on holiday to Africa. And that's going to save the animals for the next generations.
Longer term, I see a kind of real meaningful side of travel coming back. I think people are craving travel more than ever, so it will mean more to them when they go.
There's going to be a much stronger attitude towards responsible travel. So I think responsible travel is really here to stay. We now, I think, because of COVID, I think we appreciate the environment and the improvement in the environment that's happened during COVID. And I think we want to be even more considerate now in our choices in terms of travel.
Assuming we live with coronavirus into the next year, which seems really likely, then the continuing mantra is going to be flexibility of booking and cancellation. We see that a lot already with tour operators, but with regards to foreign travel, I do think UK consumer confidence has been sorely tested.
We see two agendas have been accelerated due to COVID. One is the digital agenda. You will see more touchless, for instance, and this is something that we have been pushing a lot for the last years. How do we offer a better experience to the traveler? More seamless, hassle-free. And that's what we encourage nations and countries to use the technology, not filling out forms, for instance, on arrivals, so that it's easier for you to go through international borders and airports more in an easier way. So we will see a lot of implementation of those technologies.
The need to go to a high street to plan a trip is decreased more than ever, and I actually think the digital movement that's happening in all other industries is going to just happen even more now in travel. So, as a digitally focused company, it's quite exciting for us.
We've seen a really big increase in the amount of people wanting to book with travel agents, because they feel it's more safe and it's more secure, and they've got someone on the end of the phone. So if anything did happen, like the holiday was cancelled, they've got someone who's actually fighting their corner. So I think we're going to be looking at a lot more personalised and a lot less mass.
Once the vaccine is available, you're going to see a lot of traveling due to sports, for instance, or big events. So you will see that after the vaccine is available. But I wouldn't say that that's going to change. It's just going to be, as I say before, in two phases. One phase is the short term so that we can enjoy travel, have some nice holidays. But then the second phase is have some sort of like normality or how it was before COVID. And of course, that's going to take longer because everything is going to be depending on the actions and decisions made in the different countries.
I think it will mean, that we think a bit harder about where we go, or perhaps we try new things, or we save for longer in order to maximise our time on sort of fewer, potentially more expensive holidays. But the world isn't going to disappear.
I think the future of travel is going to be a much more meaningful and thought through process than it ever was before, with pros and cons as you go. I think the normals that we became used to with travel that might be slightly eroded are kind of, the ease of moving through airports, something which, we're going to have to be more considerate with and we're going to have to be more mindful of. But the pros potentially are a completely kind of a new landscape in terms of appreciation of where you're going. I think the people that you're going to visit as well will be more appreciative. And I think potentially we took for granted something that's actually incredible. So I think the potential to re-engage in travel and to enjoy it more than ever is massive.
If you look at our weather in the UK, I don't think we'll ever completely forego our international holidays. It's part of our DNA, and I think it would be very hard for us not to travel overseas.
Travel is about enjoyment, and it will never stop being about enjoyment. And we have to make sure in the future that travel still has that wonder, and that the wanderlust of the British public can be maintained.
We will carry on travelling internationally just as we ever have before. I think our appetite won't wane, and our weather really won't change.